Today, I'm going to take you through Agentic data engineering with Astra DB. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to build a data layer for your application on Astra DB. We're going to go through building an Astra DB instance, our keyspace, our table schema, and then load our data and get our data exactly where we need it so that we can start building our application. We're going to start by creating an instance in Astra DB. Then we're going to create our schema, which is our keyspace and our tables. I have a repository that has data loaders pre-built that we're going to use, so we'll go ahead and clone that and create an environment file so that it knows how to talk to Astra DB. Then we're going to have our Agentic coding tool run our data loaders, and we'll verify. For the theoretical application that we're going to build, we're going to focus on an astronaut and spaceflight tracker that centers on and has data for historic NASA spaceflight missions. So the idea is that we're going to need data structures to store data on, individual astronauts, spaceflight missions. We'll need to allow CRUD operations on both, and eventually serve out RESTful endpoints. But as far as the actual data layer, that's what we're going to focus on here. Now, of course, to make this work, we're going to use a repository that I already have pre-built. All right. So when you get to this screen, this is where we're going to go ahead and create a new database. So we're going to want a serverless vector database, and you can name it whatever you like. So I'm just going to say Astronaut DB. Perfect, there we go. I'm going to put mine in AWS, and I'll say I want US East 2, in Ohio. There we go. And let's do a create. All right, so now creation of our database is pending. It'll take a little bit for it to come up. While I'm waiting for my database to come up, I can go ahead and create a new token. So I'll just say, astronaut token, never expire, fine, and I'll say generate. So when this gets generated, you can't really see it, but you can hit this copy button here. I mean, you can look at it with this button if you want to, but I won't. So I'm going to say copy, and I'm going to store that off over in, another notepad area. All right. So my database isn't initialized just yet, but I do have my API endpoint. So let me go and copy that, and I'm also going to store that off, in another area where I can kind of take notes and keep my credentials separate and secure. Okay, as you can see, our database is now active. The first thing I'm going to do here is create a keyspace. A keyspace is really just a logical container to store our database objects inside of it. So I'm going to go to this Data Explorer, and I'm going to hit the drop down here for the keyspace. Now, there's a default keyspace that you can use, but we're going to want one that's specific to our application. So in this drop-down, I'm going to hit this Create Keyspace button. And I'll say that I want it to be named astronaut_app. And I'll say Add Keyspace. And this is going to take a second, but it should be out there momentarily. All right, with that complete, let's go ahead and click on this CQL console button over here. There we go. So for this step, I can go down to step number 2 in the Git repo for create your schema. And you can see that we have a CQL command to use the astronaut app keyspace and then create 2 tables inside of it. One table called astronauts and the other called astronauts by mission. I'm going to hit the copy button here, and then we will go back to our CQL shell, and I will just paste that in there. There we go. So now I can say desk tables, and you can see that both of our tables are in there. So we have our database ready. Let's go ahead and move on to the code that's going to help us populate and put that data out there. I'm going to go to that GitHub repo that I mentioned before, and what I'm going to do is go over to the code button and slide down and just hit that copy URL button right there, and then I can switch over to a terminal and I can say git clone and just paste that. And there we go. Now we can go ahead and open up this project with an agentic coding tool like IBM Bob. Let's go ahead and get our Python directory set up so that we can run our data loaders. And you know what? I'm actually going to talk to my agent and have my agent in IBM Bob just kind of take care of all this for me. So I'm going to say, please install the poetry and Astra Pi equals 2.2.1 Python packages for me. Now, even if I have these already installed and everything, it's going to double check and just make sure that I have everything that I need. There we go. Now it looks like the first command it tried failed, but it looked like it figured it out as it went on. So I think we're okay there. Yep, no installation was needed. They were installed, yep, via pip3 under, yep, okay, all right. I think we're okay. With that complete, next we need to go ahead and create our .env file. Now, our .env file is going to contain things that allow our Python scripts to connect to our Astra DB instance. So we're going to put things in it like our DB API endpoint as well as our token. So we have this env.example file here, and you can see that it does have, variables in there for the endpoint and the token, and it has the key space in there already. And since we've named the key space that, we don't need to mess with that at all. But I need to create a .env file, and I'm going to have it created from this. So let's say, please copy the .env.example file to .env and open it so that I can update the credential values. And it should ask for an approval to do this. All right, env file has been created. Look at that. So let's get rid of that env example and look at .env. And now we can go ahead and add our credentials. This is where I'm going to go to that off-screen text editor where I've been keeping my DB API endpoint as well as my Astra DB token, and I'm going to copy those and paste those in. So this repository has two Python scripts that can be used to load data into each of those tables. So we don't really need to mess with the code. We just need to run them. Run the data loading scripts found in the loaders directory and use the credentials specified in the .env file to connect to Astra DB. Let's try that. So it found my .env file, that's good. Okay, and all right, so now it's going to try to run those two loaders. And yep, we want it to run a Python 3 loaders load astronauts pi. Throws a warning, but that's okay. Oh, look at that. We have 39 rows inserted into that astronauts table. Excellent. So now it wants approval to run the load astronauts by mission loader. So I'll say approve that. All right. It loaded 70 rows. Now, I can verify this by going into Astra DB, and we can say use astronaut app. Select star from astronauts, limit 5. Hey, there we go. How about we try the same thing? Astronauts by mission. All right, so that comes back with Apollo 11 and then 2 of the astronauts from Apollo 15. We could further test that out by saying where mission name equals, and we can say Apollo 17. There we go. And we have Gene Cernan, Harrison Schmitt, and Ronald Evans coming back from Apollo 17. All right, outstanding. Looks like our data is loaded. So in this video, we learned how to create an Astra DB instance, define our schema, and agentically load data with Python. Thank you and have a great day.